will be.
Stories from India and the world. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh, and joining me today in the show is my colleague Ollie Barrett from London. Ollie, how are you today?
Fantastically well, Shubhendu, thank you. Hope you are too. Coming up in the next half an hour at 11:30 here in London and 12:30 p.m. across Central Europe. There is, as ever, a lot to get through. A big win for Donald Trump in the United States, a key speech for Zelenskyy at Davos, and more extreme weather in various parts of the world. First, the headlines.
Donald Trump secures big win in the first Republican presidential contest in Iowa. Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis fight for the second place. Vivek Ramaswamy quits U.S. presidential race, endorses Trump.
This has been an incredible experience. The people have been, this is the third time we've won, but this is the biggest win.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy to address World Economic Forum at Davos, discusses reconstruction plans for the war-ravaged nation with NATO chief. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on a two-day visit to Andhra Pradesh and Kerala offers prayers at Veerbhadra Temple in Lebakshi to inaugurate projects worth over 4,000 crore rupees. It was perhaps the least surprising victory in the history of Iowa caucuses. Donald Trump romped to a lightning-quick victory in the first contest in the Republican race for a presidential nominee. Braving frigid cold, his supporters turned out to cement his status as the presumptive Republican standard-bearer to challenge President Joe Biden in the November's election. For the first time since he lost his 2020 re-election bid, the former U.S. president, who is being prosecuted in 4 criminal cases, faced voters. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis stands second in the race, while former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley finishes third in Iowa. And speaking from his campaign headquarters in Des Moines, Iowa, Trump thanked his supporters, saying that this time now for everyone, our country to come together. DD India's correspondent William Denslow gets us more.
For here in Iowa is absolutely freezing. If you take into account the wind chill, it's down currently at around minus 30 degrees Celsius. But support for Donald Trump remains red hot amongst Republican voters here in the Hawkeye state. Less than 5% of caucus votes have been tallied, but already major US media outlets are projecting the former president as the winner here in Iowa.
Well, I want to thank everybody. This has been some period of time, and most importantly, we want to thank the great people of Iowa. Thank you. We love you all. What a turnout, what a crowd. And I really think this is time now for everybody, our country, to come together. We want to come together, whether it's Republican or Democrat or liberal or conservative. It would be so nice if we could come together and straighten out the world and straighten out the problems and straighten out all of the death and destruction that we're witnessing. It's practically never been like this. It's just so important, and I want to make that a very big part of our message. We're going to come together. It's going to happen soon, too. It's going to happen soon.
The real question still to be decided is who comes second, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley or Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. When it comes to the significance of Iowa, well, it only accounts for around a couple of percent of the total delegates needed to become the Republican Party's nominee to be president. But it's all about this keyword, momentum. It is a long campaign with the candidates crisscrossing the nation to decide who will ultimately be the party's candidate. But this is a very strong first step from Donald Trump. Strength of the former president, that brand recognition, of course, that he has. And he's really been running this campaign almost like an incumbent. He's been avoiding the debates from the other Republican hopefuls, really sending a message that he is the rightful heir apparent to be the next Republican presidential nominee, and letting the other candidates really battle it out in the sandbox. So what we're seeing from voters in Iowa is they're very much adhering to that confidence that Donald Trump has been portraying. For Ron DeSantis, this is an incredibly significant state for him to perform well in. Unlike some other candidates, he has been to each of the 99 counties in the state of Iowa. He's attended more campaign events than Nikki Haley and Donald Trump combined. So he's put plenty of eggs in the Iowa basket. So for many analysts, a disappointing night here in Iowa could be a huge setback for his campaign.
And Nikki Haley has now turned her attention to New Hampshire after coming third in the Iowa caucuses. Third place finisher Nikki Haley touted her showing to supporters, saying that because she surpassed expectations, the Republican presidential contest is now a two-person race. She also told the audience at the caucus watch party what she represented the last best hope of her stopping the Trump-Biden nightmare.
I want to congratulate President Trump on his win tonight. We have had an amazing 11 months here in the Hawkeye State. I came to Iowa early and often, and I kept coming back, even though the cold weather is brutal.
Meanwhile, Vivek Ramaswamy, multi-millionaire former biotech executive, ended his White House bid and endorsed Donald Trump after his long-shot bid caught attention but failed to catapult him high enough in the Republican Party's first nominating contest in Iowa. Ramaswamy was one of the surprises of 2024 Republican race, dominated by former President Trump. A fierce defender of Trump throughout the campaign, Ramaswamy likely secured himself a spot in Republican politics going forward with his youthful demeanor, deep pockets and fast-talking, pugnacious campaigning. And US Vice President Kamala Harris warned Americans on Monday their freedom is threatened as she commemorated Martin Luther King Jr. Day in early voting state of South Carolina. Harris urged voters help to protect America's rights from Republicans. US Vice President Harris said that freedom in the country is under, she says, profound threat, citing the Supreme Court's overturning Roe versus Wade, long lines of voting and prevalence of gun violence.
Well, as Vice President of the United States, I'd say at this moment in America, freedom is under profound threat. Today, in fact, we are witnessing a full-on attack on hard-fought, hard-won freedoms.
Let's now listen into some of the reactions from Iowa residents supporting Donald Trump.
I can't divorce myself from Trump. I mean, his qualifications and his performance over the last term that he had, and the persecution that he's put himself through, or they've put him through, is just unreal. 8
years ago now when he took over, he made significant changes in what went on. I don't think there's another person running that is strong enough to fight the establishment and to get things done.
Trump, because I know we both feel the same, and he's done an awesome job in the past, and I know he'll take care of business this time. And he's real important to us, and I think he's going to do an excellent job.
I don't think there's ever been a more important time for President Trump. Our world is going to hell in a handbasket if we don't stop it.
And Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is set to address World Economic Forum at Davos. Ollie Barrett is in London, gives us more on this and other stories making headlines around the world. Ollie, it will be interesting to see how the West continues engagement with the Ukraine conflict.
Very much so, Shibendu. And ahead of his address at the World Economic Forum in Davos, the Ukrainian president met with the military alliance NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg. That meeting was in part to discuss ways to finance Ukraine's reconstruction plans. The Ukrainian president has also held talks with the EU chief Ursula von der Leyen and business leaders on the sidelines of the forum as well. The meetings come 2 days after a National Security Advisors Summit on Ukraine's peace formula that was proposed by Volodymyr Zelenskyy. That plan calls for the withdrawal of Russian troops and the cessation of hostilities. Well, DD India's Alex Cadier joins us live now from Brussels. And Alex, what is Volodymyr Zelenskyy hoping to achieve from his visit to Davos?
Well, Ollie, the Ukrainian president is hoping to unite the world, his allies, and those countries a little bit more skeptical about this conflict, unite them around his peace formula, his peace proposal, his 10-point plan. That includes the full withdrawal of Russian troops from what President Zelenskyy says is Ukrainian sovereign territory, including Crimea and those regions in the east. It also includes the protection of food supplies, of energy supplies in Ukraine for a more lasting peace. And we saw that meeting of national security advisors you just mentioned was very well attended. 82 countries represented. That's up from the 64 countries the last time the Ukrainians brought together a meeting of this kind. And on top of that, the Swiss have agreed to host a peace forum organized by President Zelenskyy and Ukraine for the leaders, for world leaders in the foreseeable future. So the Ukrainian president trying to unite those world leaders, also trying to unite the private sector, business powers, particularly in Davos, as they are all very present there, as you said. The CEOs for Ukraine meeting took place this morning, a packed room. Ursula von der Leyen, the EU Commission President, was sat next to President Zelenskyy as he put forward his proposal for Ukraine as an investment destination. So certainly very high stakes for this headlining Ukrainian president in Davos. Ollie.
And Alex, you mentioned Ursula von der Leyen there, the European Commission chief. She's had a warning today about support for the Ukrainians.
Yeah, quite a stark warning about what Russia's invasion of Ukraine means for the world. Ursula von der Leyen, the EU Commission President, saying that it is the greatest risk to the global order in the post-war era, the era after World War II. And that has been consistent with what Ursula von der Leyen's been saying here in Brussels for months. She sees the world as being increasingly fractious. And of course, the theme for the World Economic Forum in Davos this year is building trust. Well, Ursula von der Leyen says our world is in an era of conflict and confrontation, of fragmentation and fear. So really, again, trying to offer that support to President Zelenskyy, trying to unite the world behind finding a lasting peace solution for Ukraine, and pushing back what she sees as a toxic, nefarious influence from Russia and its invasion of that country. So certainly Ursula von der Leyen not mincing her words, very clear that the stakes are very high and that the world needs to unite in stopping this invasion.
Alex Cadier in Brussels, thank you. Speaking also at the World Economic Forum, the Qatar Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani said that the US and UK airstrikes against Yemen's Houthi rebels raise the risk of regional escalation beyond the Israel-Hamas conflict.
This is also will create a high risk of further escalation and further expansion of that. We always prefer diplomacy over any military resolutions, and we believe that we shouldn't just focus on those small conflicts. We should focus on the main conflict in Gaza, and as soon as it's diffused, I believe everything else will be diffused.
The Israeli military says it has killed dozens of Palestinian terrorists in an operation in northern Gaza. Troops also found, they say, around 100 rocket-set installations and 60 ready-to-use rockets. Israel says only military pressure on Hamas will force the group to release hostages still being held after the October the 7th attacks. Hamas has released a new video that purportedly shows the dead bodies of 2 Israeli hostages killed in captivity. Israeli special forces have carried out a strike in the area of Aita Ashab in Lebanon. The Israeli military saying special forces struck in order to remove a threat in the area. It didn't say what kind of forces had struck nor where specifically they had operated. The military did say that its aircraft struck an anti-tank missile launcher in southern Lebanon that belonged, it says, to the Iranian-backed group Hezbollah. Turkey says it destroyed 23 targets in overnight airstrikes on Kurdish militants in northern Iraq and Syria, a further escalation of conflict south of its border. The attacks were the latest by Turkey since 9 Turkish soldiers were killed in clashes with Kurdistan Workers' Party fighters in northern Iraq on Friday. According to the Defense Ministry, the new strikes were on targets in northern Syria and the Metina Gara, Kirkuk and Kandil regions of northern Iraq. The Interior Minister said on social media platform X that counter-terror police had detained 165 people in operations targeting the PKK across 28 Turkish provinces. Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps has struck what it describes as the spy headquarters of Israel in Iraq's semi-autonomous Kurdistan region and Syria as well, with ballistic missiles. The US has condemned the Iranian attacks and said they oppose such reckless missile strikes. Iran says the strikes are retaliation for the killings of the 3 members of the Revolutionary Guards in Syria in an Israeli airstrike last month. The Iranian Foreign Minister has warned the United States and Britain to stop attacks in Yemen against Houthi targets in response to concerns for Red Sea shipping routes.
The United States cannot call for restraint while supporting Israel or provoke a conflict in the Red Sea by attacking Yemen while claiming that it does not want a wider war in the region.
A volcano that erupted in southwest Iceland for the second time appears to be significantly less active overnight, despite signs of magma still flowing underground. The Icelandic Meteorological Office says although volcanic activity has eased since Sunday, the eruption centre is a high-risk area and new fissures could open without warning. Officials say it's difficult to estimate how long the eruption will last and say new cracks might appear within Grindavik within the next few days. In the US state of Colorado, heavy snow has been filling the streets. Swathes of the United States have been gripped by an Arctic blast this week. The extreme cold is expected to linger, hitting the Midwest hardest, and freezing rain across the southern and mid-Atlantic states as well. Heavy rains have killed at least 12 people around the city of Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. The rains flooded streets, the capital's city metro line and people's homes as well, bringing down trees and causing landslides in places. Rio's mayor has announced a state of emergency, while the president, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva's government, is offering federal support. The United States will deploy 2 military helicopters in Japan to the earthquake-hit Noto Peninsula. Relief efforts have been hampered by strong aftershocks that could trigger fresh landslides and further damage weakened structures. Lots of parts of the world facing extreme weather at the moment. Shibendu, back to you in the studio.
Thanks very much, Ollie, for joining us with those inputs. And we're heading for a short break. Still to come on DD India Global. A shrine in Japan installs decorative masks to mark end of winters. And a look at how Ayodhya is preparing for grand inauguration of the Ram Temple.
The अयोध्या धाम की जय.
This is Dashrath Mahal or Dashrath Palace, which is thought to have served the home of Lord Rama in his younger days and also served as a capital of King Dashrath.
राम राज्य पूर्णतः 22 जनवरी को वापस आ रहा है. हम लोगों में एकदम हर्ष उल्लास है. जय श्री राम. पूरी अयोध्या मालूम दुल्हन की तरह सज गई है.
राम राज्य के दर्शन करने सब राज आएगा. ये पृथ्वी का ना राजा राम जी है.
अयोध्या में राम जी का भव्य मंदिर, दिव्य मंदिर बन रहा है. ये हमारे स्वाभिमान का प्रतीक है.
Iconic Ram Ki Pedi or the series of ghats on the bank of much revered river Saryu.
राम जी का राज्य था, राम जी का राज्य है, राम जी का राज्य रहेगा.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Global. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. North Korean Foreign Minister Ko Son-hui met her Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov in Moscow on Tuesday. During the meeting, North Korean minister stated that ties with Russia were developing in line with the plans of the two countries' leaders. The Kremlin announced that President Vladimir Putin would later meet both ministers to discuss the outcome of their talks.
The fact that the foreign ministers meet now to strengthen their friendship once again proves that friendly relations between Russia and North Korea, which have a long history and traditions of friendship, move forward with energy in accordance with the plans of the leaders of the two countries.
Let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world. A shrine in Fukuoka city of western Japan has installed large decorative masks at its gates ahead of Setsubun, the last day of winter on the Japanese traditional calendar. Kushida Shrine began adorning the gates with the giant Otafuku mask 63 years ago. The lucky and plump female face was made with Japanese washi paper on a wooden frame. An exhibition of fine and applied art dedicated to the year, the fount of the mind, Magmuli Frage, has been organized in the exhibition hall of the Union of Artists of Turkmenistan. This exhibition is one of the many events that are being organized throughout the country and abroad in honor of 300th anniversary of the great poet. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi performed puja and darshan at Veerbhadra Temple, Lipakshi in Andhra Pradesh. It is believed that Lipakshi is the place where Lord Ram met the dying Jatayu, who valiantly fought with Ravan when he was on his way to Lanka after abducting Lord Ram's wife, Goddess Sita. Prime Minister Narendra Modi prayed at Veerbhadra Temple in Lipakshi, also heard verses from Ranganatha Ramayana, which is in Telugu. Prime Minister is visiting Lipakshi, which holds a special place in Ramayana, just 6 days before Pran Pratishtha ceremony of Grand Ram Janmabhoomi Mandir in Ayodhya. And Prime Minister Modi was mesmerized after listening to Ram Bhajan, which was presented to him by traditional performers. The Ram Bhajans were dedicated to Lord Ram. The name Lipakshi in Telugu means rise or bird, tribute to Jatayu, who made the supreme sacrifice to stop Ravan from abducting Goddess Sita. The visit to Lipakshi comes after Prime Minister Modi visited Sri Kalaram Mandir in Nashik. A few days back, Prime Minister visited Panchavati, situated on the banks of Godavari River in Nashik. Another unique performance was presented to Prime Minister Modi through puppetry. The show depicted the story of Ramayana. Prime Minister Modi offered prayers to Lord Sheshnag in the temple premises. PM also felicitated priests and other performers at Veerbhadra Temple. In India's southern state of Andhra Pradesh, Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Immersive Learning Centre at Palasamudram. The centre is equipped with Antique Smuggling Study Centre, Narcotics Study Centre, Wildlife Crime Detection Centre, along with X-ray Baggage Inspection Training Block. The centre is also a junction for blockchain as well as artificial intelligence and other emerging technologies for training and capacity building. India's Minister Hardeep Singh Puri and Smriti Irani launched Women's Leadership Lounge called We Lead during the 2024 World Economic Forum annual meeting at the Swiss resort of Davos. Announcing the move on social media platform X, Minister Puri wrote, celebrating the emergence of Nari Shakti is one of the important pivots of India growth story as we move from women-centered development to women-led development. Smriti Irani also posted on social media platform, informed about the importance of We Lead Lounge initiative, led by Ministry of Women and Child Development in partnership with Confederation of Indian Industry and supported by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The lounge will highlight India's journey in women-led development. The lounge will also host insightful sessions with global leaders, politicians, development institutions, industry leaders, think tanks, and media giants. We now turn to some special stories from Ayodhya ahead of the grand opening of Ram Temple on the 22nd of this month. Next, we bring you an exclusive conversation by DD India correspondent Siddharth Bharadwaj with Vedic scholars in Ayodhya, where the anticipation for the consecration ceremony is reaching new heights. They share insights into the studies, excitement building up in the city as it prepares for the historic event on January 22nd. Let's have a glimpse into the spiritual fervor and cultural significance of the momentous occasion.
The city is buzzing with excitement as everyone here is waiting for the big day, which is set to take place on 22nd of January. I have some special guests with me today. क्या नाम है आपका?
दिव्यांशु ब्रह्मचारी।
क्या पढ़ते हैं आप?
जी हम लोग इस समय वेद पढ़ रहे हैं और वेद के साथ-साथ आधुनिक विषय का भी अध्ययन कर रहे हैं हम लोग।
कितने खुश हैं 22 तारीख के लिए?
जी बहुत खुश हैं। हमारे आराध्य प्रभु श्री राम जी अपने नए घर में विराजमान होने जा रहे हैं और हम लोग बहुत खुश हैं और संपूर्ण अयोध्या खुश है, संपूर्ण भारत खुश है और हम लोग भी खुश हैं।
हम लोग बहुत खुश हैं। फिर से श्री राम जन्मभूमि पर श्री भगवान का मंदिर बन रहा है और 22 तारीख को जो भगवान का प्राण प्रतिष्ठा मूर्ति को होगा, उस सब को लेके हम लोग बहुत हर्षित हैं और बहुत हर्षोल्लास के साथ प्रसन्न हैं।
All right, as you can see, the excitement right now is in the air, and like I said, everyone is just very excited for 22nd of January, the consecration ceremony. The Vedic rituals will start from today and will go on up to 21st of January. And on 22nd of January, it's Pran Pratishtha, for which everyone is waiting for, not just in India, but in the entire world. This is Siddharth Bharadwaj reporting for DD India with camera person with Piyush Vardhan Verma.
Young Vedic scholars sharing their joy. That's all for this edition of DD India Global. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also find us online at ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Global. Namaskar.